Well, hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome to my channel. I'm Ara, or Aravel. I have been a content creator for about 8 years, I think now, and I haven't done YouTube for a really long time. I suddenly felt a calling to create a video. Now, my usual content is gaming related. I am a gamer. I am a gaming nerd. So this is a bit of a departure from what people might be used to from me. So what am I here to talk about? Well, I'm here to talk about a content creator that some of you might have heard of and others will be looking at me like, girl, who? But that is the inimitable, the unmistakable, the legendary in her own mind, Amber Reid. Don't worry, I'll put a picture in here in case you don't know who I'm talking about. I first heard about Amber Reid probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. I was watching a video by a content creator named Cringing, who was chronicling Amber's weight loss journey. Now, I probably should have said weight loss journey, and I'm not here to judge her weight, her health, her vocabulary. Believe me, I have opinions on all of those things, but I think that the reaction channels do a brilliant job of explaining those things in more eloquent ways than I ever could. So I am going to leave all discussions about the vast majority of her content to people like Mr. Snowflake, Geordie, Charlie Gold, Hector Kana, The Ankle. I could go on. I won't. I'll list some in the description. But if you want to know a little bit more about Amber Reid, my best advice would be to watch her via one of the reaction channels. I know, it seems counterproductive. Surely if you wanted to know about a person, you would go directly to their content and watch it, right? I mean, you could, but you're probably going to get a more balanced perspective by going to one of the reaction channels. So what am I going to be talking about? Well, I have been watching and I have been biting my tongue and I have been trying really, really hard not to get dragged into girl world. But here I am because, bitch, she keeps trying to do oracle card readings. And I say this as somebody who was a professional oracle card reader for 5 years. I ran my own business. I read for people all over the world. I read for people in person. I read for people over Skype. That's how long ago it was. And I would read for people and send them a reading so that they could refer back to it at any point. I had a very successful 5 years. And if it hadn't have been for an ex-boyfriend completely fucking my credit and me needing to move across the country, I probably would still be doing it. But we move. So I have a lot of experience when it comes to reading oracle cards. And I have a lot of thoughts about the way in which Amber approaches her oracle card readings. There are a lot of things that I cringe at when I watch her do her oracle card readings. There are a lot of things I don't understand, and there are a lot of things that it's quite clear Amber doesn't understand either. So in what is probably going to be the most hippy dippy hocus pocus law of attraction energy vibrations out there kind of video that I will have ever made, I, from my professional perspective as a previous professional card reader, I should say previous professional experience. Anyway, there are a lot of things that Amber could improve on her card reading. There are a lot of things that Amber is just doing straight up wrong. And in all fairness, the major problem is, as always, if you know anything about Amber, she's just not being honest. But this time, with herself. I've skipped the vast majority of this video. If you want to see a reaction to health updates, results, going back to the hospital, and Keemstar's Mad at Me weekly vlog episode 9, I can recommend a number of reaction channels in the description down below. For now, I'm just going to focus on the oracle card reading. I have thoughts. What we're going to do is we're going to listen to the joyous, incredible words of this modern day prophet, and then I'm occasionally going to chime in. Let's go.
All right, you guys, so it is tarot time, and I heard some people thinking that it's bad to read your tarot yourself. Not true. Experienced tarot readers actually encourage it.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Had to have a little bit of a giggle there. First of all, Amber, tarot, oracle, different things. Tarot, I feel, has much more gravitas to it. If you go for a tarot reading, it's very in-depth, it is very personal, and it is something that can be truly, truly life-altering if you are somebody who really believes in tarot and the messages that you're getting. Whereas oracle is much more approachable, it's much more relaxed, it's the type of reading you would do if you were having a tiny itty-bitty little bijou existential crisis. I might be nitpicking a little bit that she says tarot when she's reading oracle, but they are two very different things. Second of all, reading for yourself. Now, it's not bad, it's not taboo, it's not something you shouldn't do. I've read for myself many times over the years that I've owned oracle decks, and I have found one thing to be consistently true. I get the most ambiguous, can be interpreted any way you want cards every time. It doesn't matter what I've asked, it doesn't matter what spread I've done, it doesn't matter what deck I've picked. I will always get something that basically says, meh. I believe that that's because I am too invested in a reading for myself. I'm too invested in the outcome. So no matter what I ask, I get cards that give me no straight answer. I was giggling at Amber saying experienced tarot readers. I don't know how many she knows. I don't think she's including herself in that. I hope she's not including herself in that. Could she be including herself in that? Amber, are you including yourself in that? I find that in order to be able to read for yourself, you have to have a level of neutrality to be able to be completely neutral to the outcome. If it's going to be something positive, if it's going to be something negative, if it's going to be something that you don't want to hear, that's the point. The point is that you are being guided, and guidance doesn't always come in a form of just love yourself more, it'll all work out. That's not how it works. I understand that those of you who have been watching Amber's weekly vlogs and her members only live streams, my thoughts and prayers are with you. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that oracle is just coddling, pat you on the back, tell you everything's going to be okay, and that is just not what it is. In my personal opinion, as somebody who has provided card readings for people all over the world for a number of years and tried to read for myself, I do not personally have a level of neutrality with for the guidance that I might be given, and I certainly do not believe that Amber does either. So in reading for herself as consistently and as biasedly as she does, I'm not surprised with the outcomes that she has been getting. Let me stop talking and we'll watch a little bit more.
Personal growth, spiritual growth, working on your intuition, it's great for reflecting. Are you kidding? It's therapeutic. Like, there is nothing about unencouragement. Unencouragement.
The other thing about me is I have an English degree, and I'm pretty sure unencouragement is not a word. Total English language snobbery segue there, sorry.
Reading tarot, so I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a weird thing that I saw recently. I was like, no. Actually really good to read tarot and oracle for yourself. So I personally only read oracle once a week, and it's with you guys.
Once a week. Now, let's get into a little bit of a conversation around how often you should read for yourself. I was reading for multiple people, multiple times a day, weeks on end, years on end. And in order to be able to do this and detach and be able to get the best out of a reading, you have to use a process that I and a number of my hippy dippy friends refer to as grounding. Grounding is a technique where you center yourself, you release any energy that you've picked up from anybody else that you've been around, that you've spoken to, that you've read for, and you let it go. You basically, if you were a car, you would be putting yourself into neutral. That then allows you to be calm and clear in order to be able to read for yourself, or whoever else you're doing a reading for. It's always a good practice to ground between each reading and to pay attention to your energy levels. If you're feeling particularly tired, burnt out, or just a little bit overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to interpret the oracle cards in the best way possible, because those feelings will be weighing on you and you're not neutral. Being neutral is very important for oracle card readings in order to be able to get the most from the reading. If you are somebody who is just dabbling like Amber, once a week seems quite a lot to read for yourself, especially, and this is going to sound very cruel, but especially for somebody like Amber who doesn't really have a lot going on in her life. She doesn't go anywhere, she doesn't really see anybody, she doesn't have complex relationships as far as we're aware. I guess it depends whether you believe what Keemstar said. Once a week does seem quite a lot. And I'm not sure what her intention is with her readings, but if you are reading and providing yourself just general guidance from the deck and the universe at large, you have to give time for that guidance to be followed, for whatever outcome you've read to come to you, to really settle in with the information that you've learned. So once a week doesn't really feel like enough time in order to allow that. I could be putting too much emphasis on this, that she's actually taking it really seriously. In her videos, she does look like she's taking it quite seriously, but this is Amber. She's probably just blowing smoke up her asses.
Reflect a little bit more off camera, especially with the stuff that I don't feel comfortable sharing on YouTube, which is okay because I do have boundaries. So the 3 decks that I'm doing today is Life Happens, Feminine Wisdom, and Believe in Your Own Magic.
Breathe it out. Breathe it out, Ara. It's fine. Just breathe it out. I have never, ever, ever read for myself or somebody else from more than 1 deck. I have never heard of anybody apart from Amber doing this. From the perspective of somebody who has done a lot of readings, it gives me such anxiety watching her pick 3 completely different decks. It just blows my tiny little English mind. So before we get on to what is currently behind me right now, and I meant the shuffling, not Amber, I want to talk to you a little bit about the decks. This was the first deck I ever bought. This is my tried and true. This is my tested deck. This is the one, if I have a question, I go straight to. It's a very good generalist deck. What I mean when I say that is there are decks that are specifically attuned to specific areas of your life for asking oracle questions. I have a pink and gold deck, which is specifically about romance, and I have a turquoise and gold deck, which is specifically about careers and life purpose. And whilst you can get messages for other areas of your life through those decks, it just sets the intention, and I know how this sounds as I'm saying it. It sets the intention to the reading and to the energy and to the universe about what it is you really want to know about. So you're going to pinpoint in on those areas more specifically than you would do if you were necessarily using a generalist deck. Both are great, and you can get really great messages and really great guidance from either, but different decks do often serve different purposes. Aside from that, different decks can have conflicting energies. I know, I hear myself. I know I do. I hear myself, and I'm judging myself right now. But just trust me on this. Amber could have picked 2 decks that would work magically together, absolutely perfectly. And then she could have picked a 3rd deck, which would completely contradict everything that she'd read in those first 2 decks. Personally, I always find it better to read from the same deck. It's going to be a consistent message, the energy is going to be the same, and I'm going to get a reading that is comprehensive and easy to understand. Oh god, I have to watch her shuffle, don't I? Do I? Yes, because I need to talk about shuffling.
All right, so.
Okay, shuffling. You might have seen from my face the shuffling. I find I'm leaning straight into the hippy dippiness of all of this. I find that energetically upsetting. Shuffling your oracle is a moment of reflection. It is a moment of quiet meditation, and it is a time for you to sit with your intention of what you want the reading to show you or what question you want to ask, and you channel that energy into the deck as you shuffle. There is no way for you to pick a wrong card. Anyone does a shuffle and puts out 3 cards like Amber does, for example, and says, no, that's the wrong card. That just means you're getting guidance that you don't want. And that is probably the card that you needed the most. So normally I will shuffle the deck, keeping in my mind the intention of what I want to know for this reading. I try and keep everything else out of my brain. I'm not shuffling and suddenly thinking, wait, did I buy enough toilet roll when I went to Asda this weekend? No, clear your mind, shuffle, and when you feel you have shuffled enough, the top cards that you draw in your spread, and I'll talk about spreads in a minute, those will be the correct cards. I understand where Amber has come to this conclusion, that she has to pick the card the universe wants her to pick. And yes, occasionally when you are shuffling the deck, some card will just out of nowhere throw itself completely out of the deck. Then in that instance, yes, that is the card you are supposed to have drawn. But, it's a big but, sorry. That doesn't happen every single time. So watching Amber strategically shuffly engineer to have a card stick up, hang out of the deck at a funky angle, or fly onto the floor is actually, as I said, energetically painful to watch. I was gonna let Amber talk again, but I figured she gets her turn. She talks enough. Let's talk about spreads, shall we? Spreads are the manner in which you lay the cards. There are a number of different spreads that you can use with Oracle, with Tarot. And if anyone knows anything about Tarot or Oracle reading, the placement of the cards can be important for the message that you are asking for. There are different spreads for different questions. There's a 3-card spread, like the one that Amber has laid out on her tray. Is that a tray or a table? A 3-card spread, like Amber has laid out here, can sometimes be an immediate future spread. What's coming up for me next? What should I look out for? What is the immediate future looking like for me? And in that instance, you would place 3 cards. The first card would be where you presently are. The next card would be in the next few days, the next few weeks. And then the third card would be the outcome in a few months' time if you followed the guidance of the reading. I don't think that's what Amber's doing though. I think Amber's just putting 3 cards down on a tray, table thing and reading from the guidebook. There are different spreads that you can do for different things. If, for example, if I was reading for Amber, if she had asked me to do a reading, I would be performing a 4-card reading for her, which would be 1 card, 2 card underneath, 3 card next to 1 card, 4 card under 3 card. Card number 1 would relate to the theme of the reading. That would be an overview of what the reading is going to tell you. It would be an insight into what is most important for you to know right now, which might not necessarily be what you've asked, but it is what the universe is pushing forward as being the most important thing for you. The second card in that reading would be what's blocking you. This is usually where, when I've read for people, they have gone, no, that's wrong, because that's the thing that they know is blocking them, but they don't want to address. The third card is how to overcome that block. And the fourth card usually relates to the outcome if you follow the guidance of the reading and where you could find yourself. So if I was Amber, I would actually be doing 4-card readings, and I would have that intention of what each card was telling me. The placement of the card and the meaning of the card throws into sharp contrast what the message is and how the card should be interpreted instead of just merely reading from the guidebook.
So first card is Nurturing. I love this deck. I think it's so beautiful. This is the deck I like to do during my members' live streams. Second card is Guidance, Help from the Higher Being. Your new sense of direction and purpose is about to develop. The path is becoming clearer, your thoughts are becoming simpler, your mind is becoming far more focused. Visualize yourself as you walk your own path towards your wildest dreams. What do you see on it? How do you overcome the obstacles you meet? What is your attitude? What do you do on days when you lack motivation? Close your eyes and confirm your divine guidance. Your inner voice knows what you are being guided and protected every step of the way. I say yes to my higher calling. Third card.
Okay, I'm going to stop her before the third card. The fact that Amber reads from the guidebook is not as terrible as it might appear. That's what the guidebook's for. The guidebook is there to guide. It's there to guide you and give you a push towards the message that the card is actually giving you. Anyone who has ever had a reading from anybody or ever performed a reading knows that the card in front of you does not solely mean what it says in the guidebook. The guidebook is the guide to help you understand the actual message of the card. What I intuited from the card that Amber drew is that she is not doing any of those things. I'm laughing because I'm trying to be as neutral about this as I can. I know a lot about Amber Reid, and I know from the content that I have watched intermittently over the last few years that what I'm going to say is just going to sound like somebody who's watched a lot of Amber's content. But bear with me. Anytime Amber gets a card that talks about self-love, knowing what to do, taking care of yourself, getting past the blocks that you are putting in front of yourself, and if she gets that as the middle card, it means, bitch, you ain't doing none of that. This is the things that you need to do. The fact that you are not doing any of these things is why you are in the situation you are in. This is why you are getting this message. Not because you're doing it. Stop giving yourself a pat on the back. Metaphorical pat on the back, and listen to the guidance, because you are never going to achieve what you want without making changes. Amber reads the cards and takes them on face value, which I understand why she does. She's not an experienced card reader, but the fact that she reads this message and doesn't have the honesty and the intuition and the ability to link those two attributes together in order to be able to say, okay, I'm getting this message because I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not doing the things I need to do in order to make myself better. I'm not making the changes. I'm not overcoming the obstacles. This is why I'm getting this message, because I need to do this. Amber doesn't see it that way, and I understand why she doesn't, but if I was giving Amber a card reading, that would be the message that I would be giving her, which, as you can see, is similar to what's in the guidebook, but it's intuited based on the energy and, in some respects, the positioning of the card. If that was her final card, that indicates that change is possible and that she can overcome these goals, but the fact that it's in the middle of this reading, completely sandwiched in the middle, would say to me that this is something she's not doing, and that's why it's being highlighted to her constantly.
Is Potion. Remember to practice self-love. Also really love the pictures in this deck as well. You're familiar with concepts of self-love and self-care, but either you've never actively practiced them or there's something you've fallen behind on. Either way, you should get back on track. Keep yourself maintained in all ways, big or small. That can mean calling it quits to take a luxurious bath instead, or that can mean putting on a rose water face mask and getting out your planners so you can sort out your life before it gets too out of control. Genuinely, this is just very self-love focused. This coming week, I have an appointment and I have other appointments that I need to schedule, and I feel like that falls under self-care. Me eating better, going to the doctor, getting all of this like health stuff figured out.
If she was holding up the middle card when she said that, I might have given her some grace, But the fact she is literally holding up a card that said to her, bitch, you need to get your shit together before it's too late, and saying, well, I'm going to the doctor and I'm going to eat one less burrito for breakfast than I had before. Not good enough. Point, whew, completely missed. There's a lot of self-soothing being performed in the oracle card readings that I've seen Amber do, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch from my perspective because I see the message she's actually getting. I see it, I hear it loud and clear, and to just watch her completely disregard the message that's in front of her because do I say it? Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because Amber doesn't actually want to make any changes. She doesn't want to be held accountable, and she doesn't want to be honest about where she is and the situation that she's in. So even though these cards in some instances are literally saying completely point blank to her face, you have to make change before it's too late. And it doesn't occur to her that this is serious. Even inanimate objects, even mass-produced oracle cards are telling you what everyone around you has been telling you for years. And she blocks it out and reinterprets it in this rose-tinted glasses way of reading the cards. It's quite honestly painful.
Is me nurturing myself in ways that sometimes I genuinely neglect. And I know the ways that I need to nurture myself. I know the ways that I need to give myself self-love and self-care. And I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be an advocate. I'm not going to stop. You can only stop if you've started. Even in her oracle readings, she does not want to be held accountable for the things that she is ignoring, the things that she is pretending isn't happening. And these oracle cards, in my opinion, are bringing these things right to her face, and in true Amber fashion, she's just pretending she doesn't even see it. To love myself, I'm going to love my body, I'm going to love my heart, I'm going to love who I am as a person, because I've spent so long hating myself, so long disliking so many different aspects of myself. People genuinely only give themselves self-love and self-care if they like themselves, if they love themselves, if they want to nurture and care for themselves.
It's really difficult. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not claiming to be one, and I understand everybody's situation is different, but I find it very difficult to sit and listen to Amber say, I can't make changes because I don't love myself, based on, again, it's going to sound really hippity-dippity and new agey, but based on the vibe and the energy that Amber gives off, it's very smug, it's very self-righteous, it's very narcissistic in many ways. She doesn't want to be told anything. She knows better than everybody else. She can't go to professionals to talk about her weight because they're just going to tell her things she already knows. Nothing is going to change for Amber. Amber knows it before she even tries it. And that energy speaks to me of, I do love myself and I'm not going to change, because I can't admit it outright because people will scream at me and people will be horrified. But the vibe I get is she's happy as she is, which is why she's ignoring all the calls to make some changes from people in her comments section, her audience, Hater Nation, even her oracle cards.
So I think this coming week, I really need to just focus on me. And I'm going to do everything I can to become a healthier, better version of me. So I'm going to go. I hope that you guys did enjoy this vlog, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.
I think I might have ranted a little. Sorry. I've been holding this in for weeks and weeks of watching this, and it just got too much. No, in all seriousness, oracle cards and oracle readings can be a really great tool to help you when you are looking for guidance or a nudge in the right direction. They are never a tool to completely run your life by. You shouldn't be running to them to ask every single question. In fact, when I had and my customers, there would actually be a cool down period depending on what reading they'd had before I would perform another reading for them. And they were allowed to ask me a follow-up question after the reading, but then after that they needed to reflect and take some time to sit with the reading and really let the message settle in. So the fact that Amber's reading for herself every week and is getting very similar messages in all of these readings would tell me a number of things. There's no neutrality in these readings. She comes into these readings with a very clear intention of what she is going to say, regardless of what the cards say, and how she's effectively using these cards to reinforce the messages that she's putting forward in her content, regardless of whether the cards actually match what she's saying or not. Amber spends so much of her time appealing to people who don't like her in her content, which would also show me that there's no grounding, there's no clearing of any energy. She's bringing that negativity and that baggage into the reading, which I think plays into why she essentially strawmans these readings into taking a card that can say something along the lines of, "Bitch, get your shit together or you're gonna die." She in turn says, "I'm gonna make next week about me." I don't see any problem with Amber reading for herself. And realistically, if these readings give her comfort and make her feel a little bit better about whatever stage in her life she is, whatever she's got going on in her personal life, then, you know, all power to her. I would, however, consider keeping these readings to yourself, not making them part of your content, and potentially not reading for yourself as often as you are. Also consider reading from the same deck to get a more comprehensive and cohesive message. The cards in the same deck all work together. They are a cohesive unit. There is a reason that they have been put together, and they will give you clarity. And after a while, if she keeps up reading for herself, she will learn to be able to intuit the cards without reading the guidebook. I don't use the guidebook anymore. When I first started reading, I would always consult the guidebook, but I've got about 9 or 10 decks now, I think. They're in the hall on a bookcase in the most mystical part of my house. Oracle, and I think to some extent Tarot, is very intuition based. When you look at the card, when you know what the meaning of the card is from having performed so many readings with those decks, you start to be able to interpret what it means. And of course, the reading is one whole message. It's not 3 individual messages, it's one whole message. So you have to look at all the 3 cards together and what's this trying to tell me? And sometimes those cards can appear to contradict each other, but sometimes you need somebody to just take you by the shoulders and shake you. So in conclusion, I think that that was a very apt, very accurate, and very helpful reading for Amber. Not the reading she gave herself, but the reading that the cards probably actually meant. I am very, very sure that she won't see this video. But if you do, Amber, please, please, please take some time to clear your energy before you read. Do not bring the negative baggage from comments you've seen online or reaction videos that you've watched into your reading. You need to be in neutral when you read, especially for yourself, because you have to overcome the bias of being so invested in the outcome of the cards. Also, my love, my darling, my sweet summer child, please do not read for yourself as often as you are doing. You have to give yourself time for these messages to manifest, another hippy-dippy word, in your life. And not all of this guidance will be clear to you the second you read it. And lastly, and probably most importantly, for the love of Jeff Goldblum, which in my life is very, very serious, please consider reading from one deck. Well, that was fun. I apologise if I ranted. I apologise if this was way too hippity-dippity and new agey. I do have that side to me. Thank you very much for checking out this video and allowing me, after weeks of holding this in and suppressing this, to be able to just let it out. I feel much better. Thank you very much. If you would like to see more content about oracle readings, or maybe even reacting to Amber's oracle readings, I can put myself through that for you. I can. I promise I can. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye.